I'm Michał Załęcki. I'm working in WoW Media. It's a software house based in Copenhagen. So the picture was taken there. I'm working as a front-end team leader and full-stack JavaScript developer there. And I will be talking about making bulletproof and maintainable JavaScript applications. I mentioned about the company because it's our business model works that way that we are co-owners of startups we are building. So we have pretty much always some shares. So it's always, we are sure that we will be maintaining this code. So there is no one-time job. So it's really important for me to make applications, and I'm responsible for that, to make applications which won't cause any pain in the future, because actually the time of development is just the peak, and the whole mountain is the maintenance. Okay, so I'm going to talk about approaches, patterns, and overall tips at the end. And I'm not going to talk about testing because it's like the obvious thing. If you would like to make something reliable, you will be writing. You have to write tests. So that's why I'm not going to talk about tests. Okay, and application development isn't about clever architecture or even abstraction. It's about complete control of data flow through your code. And I'm totally agree with the statement. The Ben Lash is responsible for rewriting Redux 5, and you probably are familiar, or some of you. And he's working for Netflix. So, do you know, this is some interesting thing, do you know how many of the internet bandwidth is used by Netflix globally, like in percent? 25% of data on the internet, like the amount of data, the gigabytes, is 1/3 of that is Netflix. So pretty big applications, right? And they have to be reliable. And I'm going to start with the MVC, and it was introduced in Smalltalk. So like it was said before, every great idea comes from 70s, and it works, but it not works everywhere because it works only for server. Sorry. I don't feel offended if you're using Angular 1 or something. I'm actually really admire that something which started in 2007 least today. So it's not that I'm going to talk that Angular is bad. It's just not as good as it can be in 2016. And this is how, I was backend developer before. So this is how MVC looks like on the server. Guys at the back, do you see the chart? I have a lot of charts, representation. Okay, so this is the user. User talks to our application through the server. It's pretty obvious. There's a router which selects which controller will be invoked. And then there is the separation of the read models and write models. We are sending the command to the write model. He saves something to the database. We are reading from the read models with queries. And the communication with view looks like that. So controller just sends some data to the view and get the render and sends it back to the user. And it works, it scales really well. And we have something which we call MVC on front end. There's many names for that. This is MVC, MV view model, MV presenter. They are really similar. M model view whatever. It's like troll from Google. Like I'm not sure why they did that, because whatever works for you, but they never said what works. So, and what I think is, I don't want to say that Angular is bad. I would like to point out once again, but it's not as good. And I'm talking because I made quite a lot of applications in Angular, and it gets really complicated really quickly. But how MVC looks like on the front end, as you can see, it's totally different than this one, and that's why I'm talking about them separately. And what we have here is some action from the user. The controller talks to the API. It's quite important in applications. So on a chart, there will be how to talk with the API. So in this very case, it's controller. There are some models and the view. Actually, in Angular, that's how it scales. And MVC, actually, because MVC was created to reflect the state of your application instantly to your view. This is what a MV view model is. So actually, these models as a whole, like scope in Angular. So that is scope, view model in Angular is scope, provides us two-way data binding. That's basically it. The Flux, the new architecture, and actually it was created as an architecture for React, but it works for more. It's not tight coupled with React. It's not coupled with React at all. So you can use whatever you like. It's about unidirectional data flow. Uses subset of PubSub. PubSub is the architecture. So you have publishers and subscribers. And it was introduced by Jing Chen, who's working as a software engineer at Facebook, and you should probably everyone saw this talk about rethinking web app development at Facebook. Okay, and that's how the Flux look like. It's really similar to MVC, but thanks to some principles, it scales a lot better, much better. So we have an action. When actions are asynchronous and actually can talk to API. Then there's dispatcher. Dispatcher is in the same place like controller in MVC, but it's totally different. You can consider dispatcher as an event bus. So there are many stores. Stores, unfortunately, can depend one on another. Try to design your state so you don't have to do that, because it introduces a lot of complexity and lies into your application. For example, Flux has this wait for method. I couldn't figure out what the wait for does, and because it was one call, it doesn't return any promise. So it was like wait for in the code in JavaScript. It's possible on the backend that something block you and you have to wait for it, but it's not possible in JavaScript. On front end, you shouldn't do that. But maybe it's not. It's possible. It's not impossible, but you shouldn't do that. And for me, it was impossible that Facebook come up with such a solution. So I was like, I'm going to look in the source code, and dispatcher source code is horrible. There's a lot of bad patterns there, but it's not what the Facebook was intended to do with the dispatcher. It wasn't about a beautiful code. It's about proving the concept. And what that saw is that the wait for is a lie. It doesn't wait for anything. It just putting one update of for store before another, and it was confusing. Okay, so the store, you can basically connect your view to the store. Okay, that's how it scales. So quite similar to the MVC in terms of on the chart, but in reality it's more reliable. The data flow is explicit, so you know what's going on in your application. Okay, now it's Redux. My talk is not about Redux. I like Redux a lot, but we are using it pretty much everywhere now. But I believe that there is something after Redux which will be better. I believe also that there is something better than JavaScript. There will be something better than JavaScript. There's a lot of attempts, but it's Elm, it's Dart, PureScript, TypeScript, but it's not that, right? Okay, going back to the topic, Redux. It's predictable state container for JavaScript applications. It's really extensible thanks to robust middleware. It has great community. And hot module replacement for reducers, not only for components. So it requires a little bit of work, but it's like 5 lines of additional code in your store configuration. And time traveling debugger. which was actually inspired by debugger, but anyway, and DevTools extensions, which works really nice. Okay, so that's how it works. Okay, still actions talk to the API, which is not very handy and not easy to test, but bear with me. There is a store, which is important. This is only one store, so it basically solves all your problems with data dependency. It's easier to render something like single big JSON object and send to the server, like render on the server and send to the application. Okay, so that's how you can get server-side rendering really easily with Redux. Okay, so then there are reducers. So you can have a bunch of reducers that will be invoked one by one. Who is after which reducer is after which shouldn't be important in your application. If your reducers depends on yourself, it's bad design, because actually they can be passed like as an object, and in JavaScript you have no guarantee about the order of your keys in your object. Okay, so then views can connect to store. Okay, that's how it scales. So there will be more reducers and more views, but still it's really simple to add more reducers and add more views. The logic which happens there doesn't really affect your applications badly. So you can easily add new stuff to your application when using Redux. Okay. There is this concept of root reducer. So you can connect your all reducers into one, and you have not one state available for each reducer. So you have scoped state. So one reducer is responsible for users in your application, another is responsible for your to-do list. And they are not talking to each other. And this is good because this makes your state predictable. There are also this concept of containers. So actually to make your app even more simple, you can create the container component and leave all the heavy logic into the container, and now your views are pure functions. So you can test them like pure function. So you can just invoke pure function with certain properties, and you looking whether the output is what you expect or not. Really cool. It's really pleasant to test, and probably React has the best tool for testing frontend. It's called Enzyme. It comes from Airbnb. So check it out. Okay, reducing side effects. Still there is some pain here, because each application has side effects, and side effects just happens somewhere there. Until I started reducing my side effects, I was doing side effects in containers, and it's not a good way to deal with the side effects, like saving something to local storage. By something I mean token after logging, or making a redirect after some action. Components is not a good place for doing that. You end up using your search in directory for local storage .set, and you will be looking which component is setting your token, and it's not really reliable, neither maintainable. Reducing side effects. Actually, so what you do? If your views can react for some actions which came through the store, the same your handlers for side effects. So what you can do, so you benefit from separating your side effects and components by extracting side effects to separate parts of the application, and it allows you writing pure functions everywhere. Because when somewhere is the side effect, it's like it's not a pure function anymore. One place to deal with local storage, redirects, and such really easily. Becomes really easy to find where the side effects happens, and this is how it looks like. So actions end up in root side effect reducer. You can combine it, and this is simple as that. It's Redux Saga. I'm rushing because I have a lot to say, but a little time. So Redux Saga. Redux Saga is another really old idea. Redux sagas actually are about some actions, some set of actions, which are kind of depends one from another. And what you can do is, because I can reduce my side effects, but it's not makes it a lot of easier to test, because I end up with some place where the side effects happen, and this small place, it's good, it's small place, but it's still there. Side effects happens, so there will be this problem with testing. So Redux Saga makes it really simple. It's a side effects middleware, also known as asynchronous actions for Redux applications. It's responsible for orchestrating complex asynchronous operations. It's composable. It's really important because you can create small sagas and then connect them into one. Okay, that's how it looks like. So there is an action, and actions are not communicating with the API anymore, which is big plus. This is becomes the here. It's the most complicated part of your application. With Redux Saga, it's the simplest. The simpler. And why is that? It's just because action, it's actually action creator, creates simple action, which is an object with the type and payload, possible optional meta data, and maybe the error flag. Okay, but it's only that. Then there is Saga. Saga is quite complicated, and it's hard to talk about what Saga really is without showing you the code. So I will show you the code in a moment. So there is the store reducer. So this part is unchanged, and that's how Saga looks like. Saga is using ECMAScript 6 generators for dealing with asynchronous actions and promises. So what do? You defining, in our case, deliver shipment Saga. So it accepts an action. I'm extracting a payload and token. We are using JWT. So I'm yielding the first side effect. The put is the part of the Saga and its side effect. So what it does, it dispatches action created by active loader action creator. So it just starts the loader. Then I'm calling the API. So depends on whether delivering shipment succeed or not. If it succeed, I will just put the success action and just show you some toast. And I'm forking another Saga, because this is another Saga, which is responsible for showing you the toast and then removing it after 3 seconds. And it's, oh, sorry. And this one is not blocking. Okay, so in case of the error, I'm showing you this failed. Okay, so, and I'm deactivating the loader. The flow is really simple, and the testing is simple, but I promise not to talk a lot about tests, so I will skip that, but it's simple. Update only created models, and okay, reactive state. You have time, so I'll talk about reactivity. Actually, I have a question to you. Who's familiar with concept of reactive programming? Okay, so who knows RxJS? Okay, are you using Rx in your job? Okay, for what are your use cases? What is your use case for reactive JavaScript? Wait for it, Piotr.
Hey, we are dealing with the live updates of a lot of data from different sources, merging with, concatenating, and such stuff like that.
Okay, cool. My use case is similar.
Sorry?
But I came up with the concept of reactive state. So actually what I'm doing is I'm implementing my own Redux. It's just like 5 lines in reactive extension. And I'm able to, the advantages of reactive state is that you actually always only update what is actually changed, because that's how stream works. Okay, so there is no redundant checks, because in Redux, when you connect to the store, there will be always this check whether component should update or not. In that case, there is no such need, because it's only props only change when they are different than another than the props before. Okay, so if you are interested in the reactive state, it's implemented here. There's a blog post about it. So, and actually, this is my most popular project on GitHub. Okay, that's how it looks like. So, for those who are familiar with Redux, it's really simple. For those who not, I will explain. So, what you do? You need to create a state function. So, the first argument will be the stream of reducers and optional initial state. And then you are merging initial state with the stream of reducers. You probably saw this one-liner that state is equal to some, let's say, store or actually update function from the old state. So that's what basically I'm doing here. It's a little bit more complicated because reducers are scoped. And then I'm publishing reply, so it's when component connects, subscribes actually, it will always get the current state, and ref count will be counting the references to my stream. So if there is no references, the stream stops emitting values, and if you add, actually, if some components start to subscribe, it becomes hot again and will emit values. Okay, the connect functions. The connect function is like the state and some selector, which is optional, but by default you get the full state. And that's it. Basically, it's one-to-one copy from the Redux connect function. Okay, so model view intent, this is a really cool concept. It's focused on human-computer interaction, it's reactive, whole application is built from pure functions, and side effects happen inside drivers, which you're probably not going to write because the community is taking care of it. And it's developed for Cycle.js. Who's using Cycle? Who knows Cycle? Cool. Cycle is this really smart, small framework. Let's say it's framework, it's 200 lines, so yeah, I'm counting comments also. So okay, that's how it scales. So each component of your application is self-contained Cycle.js application, so you can just nest those applications. Use object mappers. Okay, now there's this part of like tips. So object mappers lets normalize communication, flatten nested responses, solve inconsistency between string, empty string, null, and undefined, omit values based on some predicate, and you can use mapped for that. We are using it, it's working. So, that's how it looks like. So you're defining some schema, optional modifier, and then you're creating the mapper with the mapped. Then there's the source object. We can now map this we can create the result from that source using our mapper, and that's the result. Use TypeScript or Flow. Who's familiar with Flow? No one. Oh, that's a shame. Who's familiar with TypeScript? Okay. What are differences? TypeScript is JavaScript superset and compiler, while Flow is static type checker and can be added gradually. So only one file can be checked by Flow, not the entire project. Nuclide experience. Nuclide is editor created. Actually, they claim it's an IDE based on Atom. It's a package you can install, and the experience isn't nearly as good as this one you get with the Visual Studio Code when using TypeScript. Flow is much better than TypeScript in interferencing types. Most TypeScript annotations are compatible with Flow, and Flow null is distinct value and has its own type, which is good. And you can read more here. Use slint, it's pluggable linting utility for JavaScript and JSX. You probably are familiar, so. But this is actually the right config. I don't like couple things there. I'm using double quotes because they are much different than backtick. It's like easier if you are using some crappy terminal. Here you will see the difference. There's many advantages of using double quotes. I would just say that. It's built from modules, because good module is independent, small and reusable. Keep your module stateless. Avoid tight coupling with example your base library. I don't like this in Angular and also in React, that basically if you would like a date picker, there is ng date picker, and there is React date picker. And date picker JS is not popular anymore until it's using jQuery, and if it's using jQuery, it's popular in the community. So isolate your modules and access your module only through its interface. Name things correctly. It's popular that naming things is hard. I don't agree. Naming things just face you with in front of the fact you don't know what you are doing. And if you know what you are doing, you probably can find really quickly a good name for a function. And use short but descriptive names. Don't helper and utils. You can do better than that. When I see helper or utils in the code, it's someone don't know what he's doing because he wasn't able to come up with a better name. He don't know what he's doing, or he doesn't care about the quality, so neither is good. Because the helper is like this placeholder word. If you don't know what to do, what to write, what pattern use, call it token helper or local storage helper. So that's what I don't like. Be consistent and name your commits properly. So your commit should always answer. It's not a question. So it should follow this. If applied, this commit will, and then what your commit is doing. Don't call your. I think it's really cool when it comes to doing code review, and also the commits should be small. Any questions? I extended my time.
Brawa, brawa. To znowu ponawiam pytanie, czy czyjaś ciekawość nie została zaspokojona, czy się... O, proszę bardzo.
When it comes to reactive programming and in particular Redux, actually I'm not a front-end developer, but my team has come into an issue where we are making an application that has a multiple document interface. So you can open multiple tabs inside the application and, for instance, have multiple copies of the same class of view. So, well, we used React because we expected to be dealing a lot with asynchronicity, but then the single store principle has bitten us, I'm afraid. And we have shown something called containers that supposedly separates subsets, if I understand it right.
Maybe not separate, but remove logic from all your components. So not because I started with Flux really early, and I was using alt.js. Alt.js was the best one, but now it seems really bad.
I concur.
Each component was connected, so that's why I appreciate the containers.
I concur with that, and actually we initially were going to go with alt.js because we concluded that we did need multiple instances of the whole stack, so of the whole store reducer lineup. But then we fell back to Redux because alt.js just didn't seem alive too much, the single store doesn't seem like a good fit for an application that has multiple open views at once. Does it? So, do you propose any particular solution from the Redux world, or perhaps related, when it comes to separating your application into multiple tabs in multiple copies of the same?
Okay, so you are using some service workers?
No, not really. It's in the main thread, but still we have multiple copies of the same. So would you say that containers would help solve it, or is it not the right tool for the job? Do you know of any way to subset the application state in React to slices of the global view?
Okay, so did you use combine reducers?
No. No,
okay,
so
really. Combine reducers is this function which takes not all. Maybe I will just show it. It's a Mac. Oh God! So I'm not showing. I don't know how this key is working here. I'm using the. Okay, so I will just say. So the interface is really simple. So this is this function which comes from Redux repo. Yeah, Redux repo, and it accepts all reducers, but as an object, and the keys are those small parts of the state which are accessible only by this particular reducer. So this may be your way to go. But if you have really so complicated use case?
Yeah, if you can open, an invoice view, but you can open 3 of them at the same time, and it's all dynamic. So, yeah, you still need to manage subsets of the, copies of the same shape of the object in the store, but
okay.
Yeah, multiple.
Maybe it's too long shot, but you can actually run Redux in web worker. Web workers are not shared between tabs, and it's possible, but maybe you just use reactive state and separate. In some moment, you just created 3 different streams. If I understand your use case, maybe I'm wrong.
Zawsze możecie na dole w barze jeszcze sobie porozmawiać. Nie?
Okej.
Dobra, to gorące brawa dla Michała.
Dzięki bardzo.